Well, the United Nations published a horrifying report detailing the wholesale slaughter of Palestinian children by the Israeli military. The numbers are shocking. This story is a nightmare. You've been warned. Now, this is all consistent with reporting by the BBC and other locations over the last year. Now, two things I think are worth addressing. Do we trust the United Nations and the BBC? I do not. But we have seen doctors reporting this for nearly 3 years now. We have been reporting it all along. My question is not whether these sources are reliable. It's where have they been? Welcome to the club. Those of us who have studied Israel's treatment of the occupied territories before October 7th know that killing children is not unusual for the IDF. This is familiar. But now, looking at the press waking up to this fact, using the word genocide suddenly, which over a year ago was considered anti-Semitic. Here's just a few samplings. The Guardian, the word genocide. Reuters. If you've lost Reuters, you've really lost the deep state. Okay, using the word genocide. Le Monde, the Associated Press, the New York Times. I hate every single one of these publications, I will admit, but in this case, they've waited until at least 30,000 children have been killed before they stuck their neck on the line. Really brave journalism there, you guys. Way to catch up. So do we trust them? No. But is there a plausible reason to believe the report after the fact? I believe there is. Now, again, look at the New York Times headline. It's saying that Israel refutes this. They call it a libelous sham, as in by reporting this, you hurt those that do it. You are libeling those that are actually doing it. This is exactly the sentiment that I got. I published this on X at this excerpt from the report yesterday. The pro-Israel crowd is yelling, no evidence, and also Hamas. Okay, let's deal with the no evidence bit first of all. Last year, the BBC interviewed doctors that have been treating these injuries. Here is that investigation. There's a screenshot. You can watch it for yourself. I cannot play all of it for you because of the graphic images. Here is just one excerpt of a doctor saying exactly that. Watch.
Since the beginning of the war, doctors have been raising concerns about children being shot in Gaza. We spoke to 30 doctors and nurses and reviewed hundreds of photos and videos, as well as scans, medical notes and journal entries that they shared. Some of these medics said they saw many more children with gunshot injuries. However, as we compiled cases, we only included those they had documented. Professor Nizam Mahmoud is a retired NHS consultant and transplant surgeon. He was in Gaza for a month in August 2024.
We saw a significant number of shootings either with bullets to the head or chest, including to children. So most of the gunshot wounds to the head were dealt with by the neurosurgeons. I saw some of the x-rays, so a bullet literally lodged in the brain of a 3-year-old child.
Okay, I should say we blurred that even further because of the terms of service on the platforms that we're streaming on. Those images exist. Those notes exist. You should look it up for yourself. Here is Dr. Nick Maynard, an Oxford surgeon who has operated on patients in Gaza, telling Tucker Carlson a similar story recently.
So the children, the boys shot in the genitals. I hesitate even to ask, but is that something that can be fixed?
Yeah, I mean, they weren't my patients because I'm not a urologist, but I remember when they came in, because I was in the operating theatre complex at NAS operating on people with gunshot wounds to the abdomen, and my close friends who are urologists had this succession of boys being brought in who they were operating on. So I wasn't involved in their care. I didn't follow them up afterwards, but I can verify they were shot exclusively in the testicles.
Oh, come on.
Come on. So there are plenty of sources reporting this. If you're saying, I just don't like the BBC and the United Nations, I don't either. But this has been readily available if you're looking for proof. So I sense that these are just Hasbara talking points that are trained to yell, where's the proof? And then leave. I've seen that in my own feed. Where's the proof? And then you give it to them. There's nothing else. There's no conversation. So it's a flooding the zone with propaganda to deflect from this report. So now that we've established there is smoke and fire, let's look at the United Nations report. I will just summarize for you. The report estimates that at least 20,000 children have been killed, 44,000 wounded between October October 7th, 2023 and October 7th, 2025. This accounts for 30% of Palestinian casualties. So they're like, we're going after Hamas, but we accidentally have killed 30% of children. They estimate that number is probably low because at least 5,000 children are still buried under the rubble. The children that are wounded are often wounded for life and require medical care that is not available in Gaza. The report calls this polytrauma. That means they have multiple things wrong with them that will need a lifelong care protocol. Doctors report describing what they call clustering of injuries, with children arriving on different days with injuries in specific body parts, such as the genitals we just showed you. One physician cited in the UN report said this is called clustering. He said, based on the clustering of injuries and the targeted body parts, I assess that the Israeli soldiers have been deliberately shooting teenage boys in a game of target practice, a different body part targeted on different days. There is a very clear pattern that suggests this is a deliberate aiming of different body parts on children. Other children are at risk for injury because at least 10% of the explosives in Gaza have yet to be detonated. Here's another bit from the report. It's hard to see because it's on two different pages, but I brought it anyway to bring my proof. It says that when the United Nations asked Israel why it is violating this international law, Israel maintained that it does not have, it's a longstanding position that it does not have legal responsibility under international law for Palestinian children in the occupied territory, including Gaza. So they have actually signed and ratified the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which is the United Nations charter, but they're saying we actually don't have responsibility. They are choosing not to honor it, basically only for this one group. The rest of us are watching as our governments choose to do nothing about it. We have a guest today, news editor of The Cradle, Sima Itayim, joins us from Beirut to ring in on this because she is closer to the action and can discuss this. So thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything in my summary that I just laid out that stands out to you before I ask specific questions?
Honestly, what stands out to me is, you know, when you said, like, where have they been this whole time? What we have now is that this has been compiled, but this is no longer up for debate, right? This has been established already. This is about targeting the very fabric of life. And all they say is this is not true, but they have no way of debunking it. You have people from all over the world. You have doctors from all over the world. They are coming out and telling it like it is. There is no rebuttal to this anymore. So it's just a matter of how long will it take for this to snowball, because we slowly see the web of lies collapsing. I mean, I, like you, don't trust the UN. The UN is complicit. And the ironic part is they call the UN Hamas, or a wing of Hamas. But, you know, the thing is, it goes beyond, they declared on the very first day on 7 October that they are fighting human animals. So they declared that they have to kill the children, not only, evoking the Old Testament to say that. They say it regularly, that they have to kill all the children because the children will grow up to become resistance fighters, or terrorists as they call them. So there is nothing that is up for debate. There is nothing that still needs to be cleared up. And, you know, it's about, there are so many layers to it. We've seen not just, you know, shooting in vital organs. We've seen, from what we know, 30% of the total casualties are children. But, you know, you've seen the reports where they've estimated the death toll to actually be much higher than, you know, 70,000. As they've put it. So imagine how many children it's affected both directly and indirectly. And imagine also the layers, like the systemic biological warfare, for example, like beyond the bullets and the shells and the artillery and the bombs that they disguise as toys and all these things that they do, the closing the crossings, the deliberate targeting of neonatal and, you know, pediatric hospitals that have engineered the structural collapse, the children that are facing mass trauma and acute starvation, and the plague, the literal plague of rats and disease in the Gaza Strip right now. So there is no opinion. It's like they come out, they deny it, they call it, you know, libel. It's all out there. So thank you, I guess, to the UN for compiling everything that we have been witnessing in real time from all, you know, sources all across the board for over 3 years now, and continuing into today, right? This is not like an event in history that has now passed, right? They killed children today. They kill children today. They're killing between 2 and 9 Palestinians every day. Many of them are children, even in the West Bank, not just in Gaza. So, what's more interesting here is how long will it take for this web of lies to totally collapse, and also the geopolitical smokescreen that is going on, where they're using Trump's Board of Peace as a cover to continue these crimes and this genocide, right? Which was voted in and legitimized at the UNSC, actually, this Board of Peace, and it hasn't stopped yet. So this report, we have been covering all of these things for years now, and to see it all, to see the word, you're seeing the word in mainstream media. Okay, you're seeing the word genocide here, but they declared their genocidal intent. It didn't even have to be interpreted. You know what I mean? It didn't even have to be interpreted by the other side. We've been through. It's just so difficult to even put into words at this point. It's there.
Did you know that most methylene blue being sold online is the same grade used in fish tanks? Watch out for low-quality bottles that are untested for heavy metals and they're made overseas. Well, you can trust the wellness company's Recharge, which is a doctor-formulated supplement that combines powdered methylene blue with NAD+ and PQQ. Now, this methylene blue is USP grade, ensuring top-tier purity for maximum safety and effectiveness. This is not some sketchy stuff that you're going to find on Amazon. Recharge is formulated with research-backed ingredients to optimize brain function and cellular repair while supporting clean, lasting energy. So tap into cognitive and metabolic support that helps you stay energized, focused, and resilient all day long. Choose a trusted formula made for you, not for fish tanks. You can feel the difference with enhanced mental clarity, sustained energy, sharper focus, and protection against cognitive decline. And no, it won't turn your tongue blue. So head over to twc.health/redacted and use the code redacted to get 10% off plus free shipping. Again, that's twc.health/redacted. Use the code redacted to get 10% off.
Why don't we take a look? I did bring a screenshot of their definition of genocide, because once you see it laid out as such, it doesn't feel dangerous to use the word at all. It's saying at least 3 of the 4 categories are met here: killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, and deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. Now, the last part we have seen from confessions of IDF soldiers. I don't know if you've read the report called The Perimeter, where the conflict began by dismantling food systems and factories to begin with in order to make life unsustainable. So it is not anti-Semitic to admit that when the IDF has admitted that from their own mouth. But let's talk more about the so-called bravery now of using the word. You can hear the disdain in the very question I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing it more now, right? Because again, it matches up. So what will be the consequences of this now that it's being said? Because even a year ago, it was not being said. So where does that lead? How does that facilitate, or how does that speed things up as like people actually enforcing, for example, the ICC warrants that have been issued, or any of these other things? So now it is in the global consciousness. It is trickled into the mainstream conversation. It is undeniable, as we've established, and it's really the question of where does it go from there, and who actually wants to extract accountability from Israel, and how will that take place now? Because I mean, that's really what's the thoughts at the top of my head right now.
Right. And so today we see images of a victim of October 7th, an Israeli, saying, well, I was the victim of sexual assault, and you don't mention this in your report, and for that reason. So can we follow that line? It feels to me very purposeful distraction. So she's saying because she was a victim of sexual assault, then all the rest of this should be ignored. And these are children.
Right.
These are babies. Right. So what do we make of that? Again, what I said in the introduction, it's flooding the zone. But no, these victims, not those.
No, of course, because it's always about, distraction. It's always about whataboutism, right? It's and often with things that there is not much evidence for. This is how they work. This is how they do it. And they did the same thing with what about, October 7, whenever any child was killed, whenever any elderly, whenever any woman was deliberate, whenever massacres were carried out, whenever displacement tents were being targeted. It's the same concept. So in no logical, brain would you say we cannot put out this report because there were, these alleged sexual assault survivors on 7 October. I mean, the two have nothing to do with each other. This is just a tactic, right? And they do it, they always do it. So it's routine now for them.
It seems to me illogical that a victim of violence would accept violence on any other victims. That's what I can't.
Precisely.
Right. And so I can't follow that humanity. If this woman's story is true, that's a heartbreak, and I empathize with her 100%. But I cannot ever say, okay, well then, kill the babies. Yeah.
Especially with children. Right. And it's the same idea that has people questioning, like, what happened to the Holocaust and never again? Why is it okay to do this again? Kind of thing. So it really takes you back to that, where it's like, this is why does one cancel out the other? And we're talking about, again, children, right? Children, and that it was declared that they will deliberately harm and maim and kill the children. So it's
right.
Just,
and so another thing that the pro-Israel supporters will say is that, look, these children, they crossed the yellow line. Now that is addressed. Right. That's addressed directly in this report because Israel says this yellow line is where we will occupy up towards, and anyone who goes over it, that's on them. But, you and I have presumably not been to the yellow line. Those that have said it's just some random blocks placed at random distance. They don't know when they're crossing it. And that gives them justification.
They keep moving it. They keep pushing it as well. So.
Yeah, say more about that. Go ahead and describe the yellow line.
Yeah, they have kept pushing the yellow line. And as you said, it's not like this, drawn out yellow line. It is, they slowly push. At first they declared that they had occupied 55%. Now it's at 60. The prime minister has openly declared that they are aiming for 70 and beyond. And he said this to a crowd who was cheering 100%, 100%. It has also been documented that the yellow line is moving and that they can shoot and to kill anyone that is approaching, not even crossing the yellow line, but approaching the so-called yellow line, which they continue to push. Like you said, like these blocks, and it's not like this, it's not like a fence, right? Mm-hmm. And because it's not a fence or a wall, it's just, subject to their mood. It's subject to, we will, it's going to be 15% more now. And, and the ultimate goal, which we can, this is up for discussion, but for many segments of Israeli society, not all of Israeli society, maybe the ultimate goal is Jewish settlement in Gaza. This might not transpire, not because they don't want it, but because of the realities on the ground, certain obstacles, international, consensus, these kinds of things. But so the yellow line is meaningless because they can stretch it and, they can expand it as they see fit. They have called children approaching the yellow line terrorists, not just killed them and said, we accept. No, like they have actually called children, terrorists, which takes us to this, emerging threat, imminent threat, like, open fire at any threat, and everything is a threat. When you're neurotic and you're I would argue in certain cases psychotic, then anything can be a threat, right? Like the wind, not being, somebody walking from point A to point B. I don't know. I just have to random examples of like wild boars on the border between Lebanon and the occupied territories. They will go into a frenzy over a bird or a boar, this is unhinged behavior, really, with a policy which is we want to expand and take as much as we can. And they so many times they have known that these threats are not actual threats, and they will open fire anyway because it's just easy, right, for them. It's just policy. It's just easy. We saw it in Lebanon. They killed army personnel the U.S.-backed Lebanese army, right? They kill the army personnel, and then they claim they didn't know they were army, even though it was a Lebanese army vehicle. It's like whether it's children, innocent civilians, any entities that you claim you don't have any like qualms with. So when you have, it's not a wall. So yes, it doesn't matter really where the yellow line is for them, because they can declare anything a threat at any time, especially in Gaza now, where not many people are paying attention. Whereas you see now maybe in Lebanon, their hands are a little bit more tied now, still carrying out violations. But in Gaza, it's like anything can be the yellow line and anybody can be a terrorist, right? So.
Right. Before I let you go, can you tell me what is the situation in Lebanon right now? Because that continues to be a part of the ceasefire or the memorandum of understanding between the United States and Iran. And Israel continues to insist that it will not abide. And so what... since you are reporting from Lebanon, what is the situation that we can't see in the West?
Well, the real question is, before I tell you a bit more about the situation, the real question is how far is Trump willing to go to rein Israel in, and how much is Israel going to push these limits, and what will happen as a consequence? So you have Israel totally furious over the U.S.-Iran memorandum of understanding and Lebanon being included in that. And that's why they're scrambling to get a win through the direct Lebanon-Israel talks in Washington, because the U.S.-backed Lebanese government is just pretty much willing to do security coordination with Israel and give up, concessions for free. Israel is very angry with the fact that there is this new deconfliction cell that kind of replaces the old mechanism from 2024 that just allowed them to kill hundreds of people for 15 months without any accountability or any response, whether militarily or politically. So with Israel and the U.S. behind them, it's important to remember that it's all about separating the unity to exercise total domination. So this has been their whole strategy. Now their whole thing is about delinking Lebanon from Iran, right? Just like during the height of the genocidal war in Gaza, it was all about delinking Lebanon from Gaza when the Lebanese resistance had opened a support front for Gaza. It's always about the delinking, or how Yemen enforced a blockade in the Red Sea in solidarity with Gaza because of the genocidal war it was enduring. It's all about separating the fronts for them, because when the region is united in any way, whether it's the Iranian Axis or any other formation like the Iranian Axis, it just happens to be the Iranian Axis right now, that becomes a huge nuisance for them. It's much easier to have everything fragmented. So what we're having now is they're feeling like their hands are tied. Everyone is very internally angry with Netanyahu and the chief of staff. They're saying Netanyahu is lying. He's saying we have no restrictions, but we're not. We see threats, we see movements, we're not allowed to shoot. We're not, mind you, they've killed at least 5 people in the last 2 days. But it's like, okay, the massacres have decreased, the strikes have decreased, yes, they have not stopped. So we have to see where it will go from here, because you also have Iran, you have Hezbollah who's saying we won't respond now. But it's like, so far we've adhered, but we don't know how much longer we are going to adhere if they're not adhering, because they lived through that for 15 months and they declared that prior to everything that took place prior to 2 March, we will not let this happen again, which is being targeted without responding, right? So we need to see, again, like, will the U.S., how will Iran, use its leverage again? Will they close the Strait of Hormuz again after everything that's progressing with this MOU? Will they, because it might take time, right? It might take time, the discussion of how are they going to withdraw. Again, Israel is trying to get, Israel does not want to withdraw. Okay, and we don't know how much the Trump administration is willing to, how much pressure they're willing to put on Israel to withdraw. So Israel is trying to, get into this find this kind of formula with the Lebanese government, because the Lebanese government is the one with no leverage, right? Who's just willing to give it all away. And by the way, the direct talks are a direct violation of Lebanese law, the 1955 boycott law. It is a violation of Lebanese law to engage in direct talks with the Israeli entity. Not my opinion. This is Lebanese law. Just putting that out there. But so they're doing these talks. It's not going too well, according to recent reports. The Israeli envoy is calling it a train wreck. He's so angry with the Iranian influence. He's like, the whole point of this was to delete Iranian influence from Lebanon and just deal with the Lebanese government, which is perfect for them, right? And now that there's this new deconfliction cell with the Lebanese army, Pakistan, Qatar, Iran, and Israel's not a party to it. they are just losing their minds. So they have this pilot zones thing in the south that they want to try out. And they're like, we're not going to withdraw. The Lebanese army has to go in and disarm Hezbollah by force and take out the infrastructure and ban all the fighters. Mind you, the fighters are like residents of those villages. Like, you can't just erase them from the south because you're upset that they took up arms. Like, they are actual residents of these villages. It's not some Iranian plant in the south of Lebanon that you can remove and send back home. So we have to, it's a very critical and fragile situation right now, where we're still seeing violations, but they are much less. They are still violating, and yet they are still complaining about how their hands are tied, and they are so angry with the Trump administration for putting these restrictions on them. And now, like we were talking about in Gaza with the threats, so usually it would be like an emerging threat can be targeted. Now it has to be an imminent threat. So imminent is like one step beyond emerging. Like, if it's so anyway, in the result of that is you see less attacks, but the attacks are still happening. Many of them are drone strikes and artillery shelling. And a municipal worker was killed. It's not even always like, armed fighters who, it's not armed, it's civilians. So
but it has been. That's there's one thing that I just can't get over, a lack of reaction to 4/8. That is something that should be codified in our mind to the same level, in my mind, of, a Beirut barracks bombing, of 2/28 when we killed all those girls at the school. These dates don't even become solidified in our minds because it's acceptable, I guess, to the West. And so to say now, well, it's just one dude there, some children there. Last week, there were people buried in their homes in overnight bombing raids. And the way that we are able, and I that you and I talk about this as well, at least it's not that, is shocking to my...
Right?
Of
course, because...
Right, and obviously you and I are outraged, but where is the global outrage? Right.
Yeah, it's not massacre, so it's okay. And there is no ceasefire in Israel's dictionary. I mean, no ceasefire. There's like this, understanding with the U.S. that you can open fire. It's just about the degree. Like, how much are they allowed to open fire now versus? But like you're saying, it's this desensitization, it's this idea of are we supposed to be thankful now that they haven't massacred like 50 people in 48 hours? Like, oh, it's just 5 people in 2 days, and that's a ceasefire. And it's like in Gaza, like, oh, there's a ceasefire right now, and there's the Board of Peace, so it's okay. It's just like 3 Palestinians on this day and 6 Palestinians on the other. It's just they have redefined ceasefire, right? And I think with Iran with its leverage is trying to change this dynamic that has become so comfortable for Israel, whether in Palestine and Syria. Look at Syria. I mean, the Assad fell, and they just went in and like obliterated the military and then occupied the south, but it wasn't even provoked. Like nothing. So then they come and tell you, oh, it's because Hezbollah fired 6 rockets, or 7 October. Or it's like, well, if you're going to do it both ways, then, so it's like, there's not even in Syria, there's no ceasefire. I mean, there wasn't maybe a war per se, but it was a unilateral war. But so there's no stopping. There's no ceasing, even in Syria, let alone West Bank, or Gaza or Lebanon. Now they're talking about, by the way, resuming bombing of Yemen.
Oh, yes.
So... yeah, I mean,
and they have done so in Somalia.
Change this?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. So who's going to tell them, that this is not what a ceasefire is? Who is going to be able to, exert that kind of pressure? And we're hoping that, Iran will stick to. I'm telling you, it's driving them crazy. The fact that Iran has a say in what's happening in Lebanon, and that the U.S. has accepted this as part of the framework, is driving them completely insane. They're losing their minds completely. They can't, it's their worst nightmare. It's their worst nightmare. Their whole thing was about completely delinking Iran from Lebanon. And, of course, you have the Lebanese government who's like, Iran is meddling in our affairs, but then if the U.S. meddles, it's okay. And if Saudi meddles, it's okay. And if Turkey meddles, it's okay. But, for some reason, just Iran is not allowed to meddle, quote unquote. But so you have them trying to, use this Iranian meddling or interference as like an excuse. and they're claiming they have no, issue with Lebanon. We're good with Lebanon. Our issue is just with Hezbollah. As if Hezbollah is like this, again, this alien entity that was just, decided one morning that it was going to, start what its mission for no reason. But so, yeah, I mean, it's really the question of, so how will this be enforced now 100%? Will it be enforced 100%? Or are we going to see these daily drone strikes even in this new ceasefire with this new deconfliction cell that's being set up? So that is the real question, really, with everything that's happening. And it's atrocities always at different scales. Everywhere, right? Like in the West Bank, it's a slow killing. They suffocate them economically, they raid them, they detain them, they torture them. Just because it's not at the scale we've seen it in South Lebanon or in Gaza recently doesn't mean it's not happening. I mean, I could really go into this. I don't want to take up too much time. It's even in historic Palestine in the 1948 territories, which is today called Israel. They are even killing the Palestinian communities there through systematic crime that they deliberately neglect. They deliberately do not pursue the criminals. They actually foster those crime networks. And that is even a form of, Palestinians in the 48 territories are calling that a form of slow genocide even. So all these different ways of killing, all these different ways of carrying out atrocities, very little accountability up until now. And we're hoping that this will change with the regional shift that is taking place at the moment, in the aftermath of what we think is the aftermath of the U.S. War on Iran, U.S.-Israeli war on Iran. So,
right, we don't know if it's the aftermath; it's the math.
Yeah, we don't know.
The math. We're so. It's almost midnight for you. Thank you so much for this amazing content. It's really been a pleasure to talk to you. Our guest today has been.
Thank you, guys.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching Redacted. We'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. It's totally free if you want to follow us or subscribe. And if we brought you any value at all, please consider sharing this video with a friend or a loved one on social media. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.